All right, so this is just continuing the same thing. We just need to understand that f of x equals 2 is a very different thing than x equals 2, right? So if f of x equals 2, that's like saying what equals 2? F of x is the same thing as y. So that's very different than what we just did. What we just did was f of 2. That's like saying what equals 2? What goes here? X. This is x equals 2. So these two things are different. If we have replaced the x, that means you substitute for x. If we have f of x equals 2, then we're going to replace the whole entire equation. So I'm going to show you what I mean when we do these examples. It's easier to see with an example. All right, so this one says f of x equals 16. So do we know what x is? No. If we don't know what x is, can we plug anything in for x? No. So we're taking f of x, which is right here, and we're saying we know that this f of x equals what? What is f of x?
Y.
What is f of x right here on number 1? 16. So now instead of f of x, I can write 16, right? So I write 16 equals x squared. Now I can solve for x. To solve for x, right now I'm squaring it. Do you know the opposite of squaring something?
Timing. Dividing.
Square root. Y'all remember taking square roots? So the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root of it. What's the square root of 16? 4. So x is going to equal 4. Which means when we do this, what's our x value? 4. And what's our y value? 16. Okay, so now we want to figure out what is f of 16. So now, what is our x value? It's 16, right? And now we're solving for our y value. So we're still taking this equation from up top. But now we know what x is, right? If we know what x is, we can just take this and rewrite it. So f of 16 equals, anywhere there's an x, we put parentheses, squared. And since x is 16, we fill it in. When you type that in the calculator, you'll get your answer. So 16 squared. What do we get? 16 squared. So that's 16 times 16. To what? 256. Okay, number 3 says g of x equals 4. So if it's g of x equals 4, do we know x or do we know y? We know y. So you can go ahead and write it like this. If we know y, does 4 go here or here?
There.
So now we're just going to take g of x And we know what g of x is, right? So instead of g of x, what can we write? G of x equals what?
4.
So we can write 4 equals x minus 4. Because we know that we're solving for x. We don't know what x is. So now how do I get x by itself?
Get rid of it.
Okay, so right now we're doing what? Subtracting. What's the opposite?
Add.
Over here we'll get x by itself. And over here we'll get what?
8.
8. So your x value is 8. Then number 4 is asking you, what if we're looking for g of 4? If we're looking for g of 4, what value do we know? X. X is what? 4. So now I'm going to take this, and we know g of 4 equals what? Parentheses 4 minus 4. Because we're just filling this in wherever x was. We know that x is 4. So we're substituting. What's 4 minus 4? 0. So your input was 4, your output is 0. Okay, 5, 6, and 7. Go ahead and try those.